Good morning. Today we're looking at all of Genesis chapter 23, and I encourage you to read this chapter personally because it teaches us about faith and loss, integrity and dealings, and hope beyond this life. The chapter opens in verses 1 and 2 with the death of Sarah, and this is the first death in Abraham's immediate family, and Abraham mourns deeply. Scripture does not hide grief, even in the life of faith. God's people still experience sorrow, yet grief is not without hope. In verses 3 through 6, Abraham rises and speaks to the sons of Heth, identifying himself as a stranger and a sojourner among them. And even though God had promised him the land, Abraham does not yet possess it. This shows that Abraham understood he was still living by faith in what God had promised, not merely in what he currently held. The people respond with respect, recognizing him as a prince among them. In verses 7 through 11, Abraham requests the burial place, specifically the cave of Machpelah, and Ephron offers it freely. But in verses 12 and 13, Abraham insists on paying full price. This is important. Abraham acts with integrity and clarity, refusing to take advantage of their generosity so that the possession would be legally secure and undisputable. Faith does not ignore practical responsibility. It walks in honesty and wisdom. In verses 14 through 16, Abraham weighs out the silver publicly, completing the transaction. The land that had been promised by God now begins in a small but real way to come into Abraham's possession, not by conquest, but by faithful patience. In verses 17 through 20, the field and the cave are formally transferred, and Sarah is buried. This burial site becomes significant because it will later hold Abraham, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Leah. It becomes a lasting testimony that God's promises extend beyond one lifetime. Abraham buries Sarah in faith, believing that God's covenant and future remain secure even in the face of death. This chapter, of course, points us to Christ because just as Abraham looked forward in faith beyond the grave, believers today trust in the resurrection secured by Jesus Christ. Death is real, but is not the end for those who belong to God. Today, when you face loss, uncertainty, or reminders of life's temporary nature, respond with faith and integrity. Live in a way that reflects trust in God's promises beyond this life. And let your decisions today show that your hope is anchored not in what is temporary, but in what God has made eternal. God bless.